Hey, welcome back. My name is Shawn Vales, and I'm a Boston School Impressionist painter who is also a fine art instructor. And in this video, I want to cover the things that make our paintings come to life. You see, when we start painting, the goal is to replicate what we see. And this is a necessary skill. Values, edges, proportion, form. These things are the language of representation. Unfortunately, the pursuit of correctness becomes a trap. And the result are works that look competent, yet still lack vitality. And they read more like a checklist or a documentation rather than a painting. I think it's common for many artists to fall into the trap of thinking that the more that they practice skill building, the better their work will get, and eventually this problem will solve itself. But what I've learned is that there are some other components to the equation that can't be ignored. Skill is no doubt very important. It's essentially the language, and it expands what we can say. But language alone is not the same thing as having a conversation. Before we get into having a conversation, we have to get a sense of what makes good conversation. And that's where taste comes in. Taste introduces us to the difference between competence and excellence, the difference between something that's mechanical and alive. How does somebody develop their taste? Get familiar with a lot of different works, look through books, go to museums, go to galleries, start to get a sense of what people are doing with paint, how they're handling things, how loose they are in their brushwork, how much they suggest and imply things, and use the power of suggestion to spark a little bit of imagination in the viewer. And ultimately, taste gives us standards beyond our current level. Preference is where the copying in art ends. But it's not a preference for simple objects or even subject matter. Although those things do play an important role in a picture, we're talking about preference for universal things like beauty, light, atmosphere, mood. These things create a broader, more meaningful conversation. And in that sense, the painting stops being a demonstration of competence and becomes an act of communication. And instead of replicating nature, now we're saying something about it. Judgment is how we organize the painting. What needs to be exact? What can be suggested? What should we subordinate? And what do we need to sacrifice? Ultimately, nothing in the painting should feel arbitrary. Judgment turns a collection of accurate parts into a unified whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. There's one more thing I want to introduce into this conversation, and that's our love for the subject. The saying is love is blind, but in a way, love is actually revealing. If you've ever fallen in love with somebody, you know that you see them in a way that nobody else does. Somehow you see all of the qualities that matter in relation to each other, in a unison, that makes the person shine uniquely to you. I think it's really important for us to develop that love for the subject that we're painting, even if it's a simple still life. So yes, skill is incredibly important, but it's taste that helps us understand what matters. It's preference that tells us what creates impact, and judgment that helps us organize everything in service of that. And finally, there's love, which really helps us ignite the fire. And what you do with all of that is the art. Once again, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like me to make a video in response to one of your thoughts or questions, go ahead and drop a line in the comments, and you will see me in the next one.